Whoa, that was a close one, you guys, but we pulled it off. We are 4-1, and we beat the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas by a score of 34-24. But that's all that matters, is that we pulled that off. We pulled off the win. We are now 4-1 and still first place in the division. The Chicago Bears lost to the Oakland Raiders in London today, and that was a really, really good one. Thank you, Oakland, for giving the Bears a little bit of a push there, and we sit alone in first place in a very tough NFC North division. But boy, that was too close for comfort. The Dallas Cowboys, shout out to them, played a pretty tough, hard-fought game. They showed some resiliency. They really, really gave this team a run for their money and did not sit down and just take a beating like it should have gone. You know, we were up big. We were up 31-0 on this team before Dallas made their big splash plays, especially naming all those big plays to Amari Cooper, who apparently made Jair Alexander look like Demarius Randall, for crying out loud. He was beating him left and right, especially on the one throw downfield that was tipped out of the hands of Amari Cooper and into the hands of Jair Alexander for the first interception. And huge shout out to the playmakers who got the interceptions for this defense. This defense is definitely one of the best at creating turnovers, and that was a really, really big, huge help to this team, was creating turnovers and helping this team seal the win. The first one went to Jair Alexander, which was kind of a little bit lucky. It was a little bit fluky, where the ball was underthrown to Cooper. He dropped the ball as a result, and it landed into the hands of Jair, who was able to run it back, and we were able to score the first set of points off that turnover. The other interceptions go to Chandon Sullivan and Kevin King. Shout out to those guys, especially a huge shout out to Chandon Sullivan for his very first regular season action as a Packer and the first interception. That was a heck of a catch by Chandon. Also, another huge shout out to Kevin King, who was probably not even supposed to play in this game, really. He was considered doubtful to begin in this whole entire game. He was considered doubtful to play, but then was questionable, and I was thinking, Kevin's going to play. And he did. Shout out to him for gutting it out. Aaron Jones, let me tell you about Aaron Jones. Wow, I was not expecting this from him at all. Aaron went off. Like, this has probably got to be the best game of Aaron's career so far. I just could not believe what I was seeing from him. 4 touchdowns. 4 rushing touchdowns by Aaron Jones today. He was the really big key difference maker for the Packer offense for this game. Aaron Rodgers, even though he didn't look all that good, the stat line wasn't particularly impressive, but he made some plays in this game, and he was able to make a few throws down the field. He was able to settle it down and get a few completions to his running backs, passes to his tight ends. Like there was that one beautiful throw to Robert Tonyan, who unfortunately got hurt and was out for the rest of the game with a hip injury. So now I'm going to go and give you guys the stats for each of the players. As far as Aaron Rodgers went, he went 22 of 34 for 238 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Like I said, it's not really great for the stats, but Aaron played pretty well. He was really kind of more of like a game manager type, but I think this is not really going to be that type of offense. Our offense is going to be more predicated around our running backs and being able to run the football and use that ability for play action passes, which we have seen quite a few play actions actually, and that was really nice. It was good to use to be able to help set up the pass. That really made the difference to Aaron Jones. He was able to get some nice catches out of the backfield. And speaking of Aaron Jones, I'll get onto his stat line right here. Is that he got 19 carries for 107 yards and the 4 touchdown passes with an average of 5.6 yards per carry, which was phenomenal. I was not expecting that from him at all today. I had a feeling he was going to have a pretty good bounce back game, but the 4 touchdowns, heck of a job, and good play calling by Matt LaFleur by actually running the football in the red zone, and whenever we didn't, unfortunately, that came back to bite us. At the 1 yard line, for some odd reason, we went to pass, or pass, and then take the field goal after an Aaron Jones failed run. That's another thing that's got to be worked on is when you're at the 1 yard line, just run it, please. Also, Trey Carson was brought up from the practice squad, and obviously the stats don't really look all that great for Trey, but 6 carries for 14 yards is nothing to really sneeze at either. I actually thought that he looked better than his final stat line showed. I thought that Trey Carson ran pretty well. He was able to come in and spell Jones for a few snaps, and I thought he looked really good coming straight off the practice squad with Jamal Williams out with a concussion, and unfortunately he's still in the concussion protocol, and who knows when he'll be able to return. Maybe there's an outside shot he comes back for the Monday night game against the Detroit Lions at home. And for the receiving stat line here, not really much with Devontae Adams out. The majority of the catches went to Aaron Jones. He got 7 catches for 75 yards. Jimmy Graham was seldom used, unfortunately, but the catches that he made were pretty big for 41 yards. Geronimo Allison really hasn't been able to establish himself. Neither has Marquez. That's just something that this team is going to have to work on, is Aaron getting into a rhythm and just being able to trust his young receivers to get open and be able to make some catches down the field. And that's all there really is to it. I would definitely certainly like to see more passes out of the backfield, which is all quick throws, and I'm glad we were able to get that going with Aaron Jones, but I'd like to see more of that with Danny Vitale, and maybe another few passes out into the flat with Mercedes Lewis. I really liked that we were able to use Mercedes Lewis a little bit in the passing game. Just to be able to get some quick throws for Aaron would be a lot easier, so he doesn't have to look down the field all the time and make the big play. That is something that is a little concerning with Aaron in his game, is that he will more likely look for the big play than versus taking the check down and making it easier on himself than to just chuck it and just hope that somebody gets open. And I think that's something that hampered this team down the line as we kind of took our foot off the gas, and we just didn't go with what was working, which were quick throws to our running backs, and it just kind of like led to Aaron just trying to force it to his young receivers, and that just weren't getting open down the field. And that's something that the Dallas Cowboys defense does a very good job, is making sure to take away the big play. And they certainly did a pretty good job of doing that. As you can see right here, probably the big-time playmaker of the defense, besides our interception guys, were the Smith brothers. They were at it again. Zadarius Smith with 2 sacks in the game, Preston Smith with 1. And quite frankly, they were wreaking quite a bit of havoc on the Dallas offensive tackles, with Tyron Smith, their Pro Bowl left tackle, being out, was definitely going to be a huge mismatch for from what I noticed, that there wasn't really consistent pressure, and that was why Dak Prescott was able to have quite a bit of time in the pocket to be able to make the throws down the field to go and hit Cooper and Michael Gallup, and that is something that is maybe a little bit of somewhat of a concern going forward, is giving up the big play, but I understand in all the circumstances that with our run defense, I understood why the big plays were given up down the field, was because we were just simply going to be trying to scheme to stop the run. and that was a pretty key focal point here, was stopping Ezekiel Elliott. And for the most part, I would say we limited Ezekiel Elliott, but we didn't really necessarily stop them. Ezekiel Elliott actually had a pretty decent game. He got 12 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown with an average of 5.2 yards per carry. So I guess we could say that we limited him, but we didn't necessarily stop him. The New Orleans Saints defense, they stopped Elliott last week, and I think we might have been able to use what they had as somewhat of a blueprint to limit Elliott from going over 100 yards, and I think that is a victory for our defense, is that he did not go over 100, as I was hoping that we were going to hold Elliott to under 100 yards. We did, and so I'm going to congratulate the defense for that as well, but also keep in mind that the Dallas Cowboys were playing from behind, so they needed to have Dak throw the football more, and he sure did. He completed 27 of his 44 passes for 463 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the 3 interceptions. So now on to the game balls. Game balls go to these 3 guys right here. The first one being the obvious one, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones for having a career day. He ran all over the field. He ran all over the Dallas Cowboy defense, including catching all those passes in the flat and all those short passes. Beautiful work by Aaron Jones. Huge game. And he also did a really heck of a job for me in fantasy too, so that's a plus. The second game ball goes to Zadarius Smith for the 2 sacks. However, there were some times where we felt like he was out of control. He was going in and out of the game with some cramps, and he was battling a knee injury before going into this game. And Zadarius just needs to calm it down, gain his composure, and he's all good to go. And the third and final game ball goes to, and I've never given him enough credit as much as I should have in the past, and he continues to be a consistent player for us. He's not flashy. He's a special teams player, and that is J.K. Scott. J.K. Scott, what a game from him. I thought he had an absolutely fantastic game for us yet again, and has been a really big reason why some offenses have had a hard time scoring points against us, was because of his phenomenal punting and giving the team long fields. J.K. Scott with 6 punts for an average of 49.5, 2 inside the 20, and a long of 58. So huge shout out to J.K. Scott for being a very consistent player on special teams, as special teams is a little bit of an Achilles heel, but I feel like it's improving, and punting is obviously it's obviously better. It's obviously better than it was in years past, and I'm grateful that we have J.K. Scott punting for us. And what a game! There's just quite a bit to say about this game here. This was a pretty huge road victory for us, and I felt like that we needed this game after quite a bit of a letdown at home against the Eagles. And like I said, this puts us at 4-1. We're still first in the North, and keep this up, I think we may be looking at an NFC North title. Who knows? So that's going to do it for this video. I'll catch you guys later. Go Pack Go!